Well, it's been a busy few days for law enforcement in Kent County after a string of shootings.
On Monday, we saw a home invasion and deadly shooting at an apartment complex in Wyoming. A man was shot in his car near 28th Street and East Beltline, and a report of shots fired on Division Avenue. Then, over the weekend, 2 men were shot and killed in separate incidents in Grand Rapids. Our Michael Martin spoke to a former Michigan State Police detective and current law professor about how these times of high call volumes can impact police departments and the citizens they serve.
We spoke to the Wyoming city manager at the beginning of the month after voters there voted down a proposed income tax hike that would have funded public safety. As we get into summer, law enforcement agencies like theirs will start dealing with an increase in calls.
It can get very stressful.
Multiple shootings over the last few days in Kent County has left law enforcement officers moving from one call to the next. This as we get into the summer season, a time of the year where historically the greater Grand Rapids area sees an uptick in calls about violent crime.
And it occurs everywhere, in most places, because people are interacting with each other a lot more in the summertime, and therefore it creates a lot more opportunities for conflict.
There was a shooting near the intersection of 28th Street and the Beltline on Monday, and down the road in Wyoming, 4 men entered an apartment, shooting and killing a man inside that same evening. This comes after 2 men were killed over the weekend in shootings in Grand Rapids, among other reports of shots fired.
One can feel overwhelmed and frustrated sometimes wearing the uniform at times. They still show up, they still arrive on time, they still get the job done as best they can, even under the stressful situations.
Louis Langham spent several decades with the Michigan State Police, now working as a law professor at WMU Cooley, and says facing a huge volume of calls on a regular basis can have major impacts on officer morale and the process of investigations.
But while you're going to one location, something else occurs and dispatch is sending another, needs you somewhere else at the same time, and you haven't quite wrapped up your investigation here.
The city of Wyoming recently had an income tax proposal on their May ballot, which would have allowed them to hire 13 more patrol officers.
We've seen more gun violence in the last 3 years than we've seen in the previous 10. We're basically a reactive police department on this today as we stand here, meaning that our officers are out there usually going call to call to call to call.
It was voted down, so the city of Wyoming will have to make do through the summer on their current staffing. The city now throwing around the idea of a millage, but at this point, nothing is set in stone.
Some departments are larger than others, and they can handle it pretty well, but some of the smaller departments, it can get very overwhelming at times. All the agencies get along, they encounter each other on a daily basis, and they're more than willing to back each other up.
We did reach out to both GRPD and Wyoming Department of Public Safety to ask about any additional operations or surveillances being considered for the summer at the moment. They did not have time to talk today. For now, in the newsroom, Michael Martin, Fox 17 News.